And we're live. Welcome to yet another edition of PCS Q&A. I'm your host, MJ Boyce, and I am the Director of Community Outreach at PCS Grades. Boom. With me, as always, is the lovely Megan Harless, our resident PCS reform advocate, and oh, by the way, resident BA censored for little ears in your room because we love you. So we have a great topic today, and we have our a fellow mill spouse. We got Nick here today, and before we get to him and those DoD updates from Megan, I'm just going to go over those housekeeping items with you as I do every week. Here we go. All right, y'all. We got answers. You got questions? Go ahead and leave them below, because guess what? We got the answers, and if we don't have those answers, we know who does. And if we don't know either of those things, we're going to take your questions for action and get back to you with an answer. We bring these experts to you, right? We've got Transcom, we've got education experts, we've got financial planners, we've got industry experts. We bring these experts to you because they are the source. Sometimes you're going to encounter a situation that is specific to you and your military family. In those cases, your forever and always resources will be, number one, your chain of command. Number two, your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who are dealing with your stuff. And those are the people who can help further your issue for action. Last, but certainly not least, say it every week, y'all, we need to do our part. We've got to flatten the curve, y'all. We have got to flatten that curve, okay? The world is crazy right now. We got to do our part. Wear a mask, social distance, whatever it takes. We got to do our part, because when we flatten that curve, we're going to flatten Murphy with it. You hear me, Murphy? I'm coming for you. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Megan for those DoD updates. Megan?
Hey, everybody. So just a couple of things for you this week. First is to reiterate the claims timelines. A lot of confusion happening in the groups as to whether it's 75 days or 180 days, and it is 180 days. If your move was serviced, so packed up and loaded May 15th or later, then you have 180 days to file your claim. If your move was serviced before May 15th of this year, then you do only have 75 days. But we're pretty much in the realm where everybody should be in that 180-day mark for their shipments this year. If your TSPs are telling you that you only have 75 days, refer them back to the tender of service. It's DTR Part 4 Appendix B that gives you the 180 days. And it's also listed on move.mils underneath their claims tab, where you can go and read that information as well. While we are discussing claims, a little note is that you need to keep all of your damaged items that you have until your claim is settled, because your companies, they have a right to salvage anything that they pay for replacement value on. So if they pay you for replacement value for a table and you get rid of that table, they can no longer exercise their salvage rights. They can reimburse you for less than full replacement value because they can't exercise their salvage rights then. So anything that you have that's damaged, keep it until your claim is settled. They have 30 days from the time of settlement to come and pick up anything, but they should notify you if there is anything that they do want to salvage. So make sure you hold on to those items, get the communication from your move coordinator and your TSP as to if they are going to salvage anything, what it may be, and then anything else you can go ahead and get rid of. But hold on to it as you're just in case. That's all I got for now, so send it back to MJ.
Awesome. Thank you, as always, for those PCS updates, because let me tell you, Megan breaks it down like it's nobody's business, because even sometimes she's got to break it down for this girl right here. Now, on to business. I'm going to introduce a very, very good friend of ours, Nick Stone. Nick Stone is a Navy spouse. Shout out, Navy peeps. They just had a birthday, if I'm not mistaken, 245 years young. All right. And he knows a little of his way around the almighty dollar, so I highly suggest you hit him up if you have any questions, if we don't already have him on board to ask. So without further ado, I just want to give Nick a chance to tell our audience, i.e. you, a little bit about himself. Nick?
Hey, MJ, thank you so much for inviting me on here today. I'm honored to offer a little bit of insight when it comes to how planning for some of the expenses or being prepared financially for those PCS moves, and just kind of overall in general. I am a financial advisor myself, and I have been doing this in the industry for about 10 years with different firms. Now here in San Diego, where my husband and I live, and we are planning on calling this home forever. So I love working with military families too, because it's I feel like there's always something else that we can learn as a military community when it comes to your money, that maybe that you're not getting necessarily at some of what's available right now. So I also am very passionate about it, which is weird because I'm a nerd for spreadsheets. That's like a secret that I just told everybody. So now you know, I'm a spreadsheet nerd, and look forward to anytime I can help. Feel free to reach out, because I think that everybody deserves to have a little bit of have access to some type of financial counseling and planning. There's stuff available on base. If they can't reach you, feel free to reach out to me.
Word. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So, and just for the record, everybody, we're kind of like parasites here with our guests. I mean, we're already friends here with Nick, but we keep in touch and we're kind of like leeches to them. Any questions you have, even if it's after the fact, because we have a huge Oconus following and they need help too. So any questions you might have, Nick has agreed, well, whether he likes it or not, to stay in touch with us to help answer your questions.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
And I think that money is a huge topic in our world, especially, you know, I mean, like we could take it to the top with the whole DOD budget thing, you know, but the one budget item they can never, ever cut, the one thing that will never leave, the one resource is other military families, other military spouses. You know what I mean? We got each other's backs. That's how we roll.
Resilient and resourceful.
Yes, absolutely. Most of the time, because we have no choice.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to dive right in here. And just to preface this, you know, I grew up super poor, which is totally fine. I know how to be resourceful thanks to that. But sometimes when you don't grow up with money, you really don't know how to manage it. So I learned the hard way. Everything, you know, is by experience. I touched the stove to realize it was hot. But let me ask you something. My husband and I, we've always worked. We've always been a dual income family. And moving all the time, I've had to leave several jobs. So how can a dual income military family prepare for a loss of income before and after a PCS?
You know, it's the big part about that that I find that's the biggest way to be successful is open communication, always with your spouse, about money and feelings about money. The only way to make sure that to be most successful is to make sure you're both on the same page always. So just that's kind of the number one. Communication is key. Right alongside with that is saving, whether that it's $1 a day or $10 a day, whatever you can work out with your budget. Save for a rainy day, save for the PCS move. You're never going to be mad that you have saved money, right? So like the worst thing you can do is put away a little bit for a rainy day. Maybe you end up using it towards your, the PCS move. Maybe it ends up going to a vacation, right? But those are basically the two things that I feel like are the most effective ways to prepare for any type of moves or any sort of loss of income, is to make sure that, you know, hey, we're going to be losing my income for X amount of months, probably. What do we need to do? Well, let's sit down and think about, okay, here's how much we've saved already, right? And here's how many months we're anticipating that loss of income, and making sure that your budget together, that you're doing it together, because without that, if you're not on the same page, it will never work.
Word. Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, because, you know, we've had several different plans with the same pot of money. Yeah, talking about it probably would have been a good idea a couple times.
Yeah, communication is key, 100%.
So, Nick, you talk a lot about saving money. So what are some of the easiest ways that a person can save money? And can you save money without missing the fun things in life that everyone likes to experience? Is there a way to do that without feeling that pinch in your budget so much?
Yeah, you know, the way that I've found that to do it is an automatic transfer, whether that be when you set up direct deposit with your company. You can have, most of the time you can set up two or three different options for where your check goes. And so what I do personally is I have a certain dollar amount that goes to a kind of a separate, out of sight, out of mind bank account that I don't check very often. And then, after a year or whatever, I'm like, oh wow, look at what we've saved. Because at the end of the day, what we end up doing psychologically is this amount hits our checking account, and that's what we in our mind think that we have to work with. And in reality, it's, if you have then this money that's out of sight, well, that could also be the money that you're saving to go out and have a fun event at the end of the month, right? It's just the fact that most of us psychologically will look at our checking account and be like, oh, this is how much money I have for all of my things this month. Oh, but not even thinking about the fact that I put maybe $100 away over here every paycheck or whatnot. So it's an easy way to save without thinking about it, and then always kind of being, oh yeah, look, that can be the money that we've saved for those special times together. Or maybe it's enough you save up to go to a trip somewhere or whatever the case may be. So that's how I do it personally. It's how I recommend it to my clients as well. It's just to kind of make it out of sight, out of mind, part of your habits, and you'll soon find out that you're not even missing it because you've kind of adapted to the amount of money that hits your account every month.
It's that good adage of pay yourself first and pay your bills before your fun party money.
Correct. Yep.
So it's really like honestly, if you think about it long term, it's kind of like a pay now, pay later system, no matter what it is. Like no matter what it is in life, if you can save now, because like pay now, pay yourself now, or pay yourself later. You're gonna have much more on this end before, you know what I mean, if you do it now.
Yeah, and there's a delicate balance of using credit and loans versus saving and using the savings that you have, because there inevitably going to be things in your life that you don't have enough money for, right? Like a house, sometimes a car loan, just sometimes expenses that you weren't planning for, and maybe you didn't have the money saved, so you have to have a small loan. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes it's credit card debt, right? But you're always going to end up paying more money in things like credit card debt. Those are usually the ones that I try to say, let's work to save rather than to we can spend it and then just pay this off, because then you'll end up paying for it 2 or 3 times down the road. And it's always best to pay yourself first, like you say, and use what you've saved, and then that way you've built up either like an emergency cash stash first before having to tap into any sort of credit necessary.
I feel the same way about energy, by the way. Like if I save up my energy over time, so that time when it really just hits the fan, I kind of have the bandwidth to deal. You know what I mean? So it's kind of similar in nature.
Is that like on a daily basis for you though, MJ? Like how does that work energy wise?
So I'm actually a little bit in the red. I'm a little bit in the red on the bandwidth side of things, but I have just enough to have this smile on my face. That's enough.
Good. Yeah. And and there's it's actually a good metaphor, because it's then you have your family. Well, usually they might be energy suckers as well, but not always. Like your spouse can be a support of giving you energy or helping you with the burden of some of those things that the energy requires, right? It's the same with money. It's the same with finances. Is having somebody else there as a support, it takes less energy. It takes less work to be able to kind of spread that responsibility and kind of stress about it with somebody else.
Dude, like seriously, it's like a one team, one fight thing. And okay, so another thing that I had a kind of a question about is, like we as military families often find ourselves vulnerable to like financial pitfalls. And so what financial pitfalls should military families like ours watch out for?
I would say, luckily, well, I want to say not necessarily in the last 4 years, because some of the laws got repealed, but predatory lending is something that I really want to scream and shout to military families that it may seem like a good idea, but please stay away from it 100%. I'm talking about payday loan places where you maybe are in a place where you don't have the money to get to wherever, so you're just going to go and do a payday loan. You end up paying like 1,000% interest in those. It's predatory, and there's a reason they call it predatory lending, right? So in those instances, it's we go to the base first, and you may end up getting some type of what's the word? Just like they may like put you on warning at your command or for whatever reason if you're working.
Oh,
on that.
yeah.
But
yeah.
it's much better than working a plan with like the personal financial counselor on base to get you out of wherever you and your family are at, rather than going to these places that it can take forever. You may never get out of it, right? So just be very mindful of it. If it looks like it's a really great deal, there's probably a catch, and everybody's out to get paid when it comes to like money and borrowing. So just be mindful that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And so, and I'd also be careful of, if you go out and there are necessary things, again, like if you need to get a car for your family, an automobile loan, I feel like is something that is just fine as part of a budget. But just because you can, just because like the person selling you the car and their lender, whoever they're working with, says, this is the same with buying a house, says that you qualify for a certain amount and a certain payment, it doesn't mean you should actually go that extent. Like if it's like oh yeah, let's buy this 2020 whatever vehicle and the payment is $500 a month, and they make it sound like, well, you qualify for this, right? You can get this loan. Well, have you thought about how that affects your budget? Because maybe you really only can afford in your own budget a $250 payment a month, right? And so now you're going to be stretching yourself, even though this lender person told you that you qualify for it. All they want to do is close the loan. They just want you to buy the car. They don't care once that happens, because that's not how they're paid. That's not how they're compensated. They're paid to.
You're muted, Nick.
Are you muted?
There we go. Sorry. I'm on my phone. I'm on my phone today. So if somebody calls, I have to. Yeah.
It's called a Murphy moment, and we're in the middle of COVID, so it's a freaking double whammy.
So that is my kind of the if it's too good to be true. I mean, if you need a second opinion, call me, call another like friend or whatever, because most of the time they're gonna be like, what are you doing? This doesn't seem great. So that's what I'd be mindful of.
I think this is a good spot where we can also plug our aid relief societies for the different services as well. For those that need help financially, like Nick said, avoid those payday loan places, those cash title loan places as well. All the services, they have their own relief societies where they can offer you either grants or zero interest loans. They help you do some budgeting work. They get you on a payment plan to get that stuff paid off, which is a much better option than going and getting, either using a credit card on something or a payday loan or taking out a whole new loan from your bank. They're there to help you. So definitely a better place to start than trying to see what your bank can offer you
to be successful, right?
Did Nick freeze on us? Nick, I think you've. Oh wait, there he is.
I'm back.
He's back.
Yes,
he's ready to go.
Yeah, I was just agreeing. I was saying the agencies that are in place like that are their number one priority and mission is to advocate for you, is to help you. Whereas some of those, the third party predatory lender places, payday loans, they just have to make a buck. They don't care who it is. So anyway.
And shame on them.
And for our younger spouses, our younger service members too, if you feel like you want to buy a new car, don't be afraid, to talk to your squad leader, your first sergeant, your whoever your senior NCO or platoon leader is too. Ask them, what their opinion is on a certain type of car loan or whatever, or a certain dealership. Make sure it's a reliable one, that you're not going to get that new car and you're paying 32% interest rate while everybody else is paying, maybe 3 or 5%. So don't be afraid for our younger spouses, younger service members. Don't be afraid to ask somebody to say, hey, I need to buy a new car because ours is about to hit the junker. Do you mind coming with me and making sure I'm not being taken advantage of? Most people are happy to go with you and help that. So what are talking about our money and being able to afford things, what are some easy ways to help military families make our dollars stretch more without going to rice and beans for dinner, without going to ramen noodles for dinner? What are some ways to kind of make that work?
So I'm going to give like some answers that are both like pre-COVID and in COVID and hopefully like the after COVID as well, because a lot of times what I found is in those moments where we are, trying to stretch the money to make it to last. A lot of times that means maybe inviting some of your neighbors over for meals, or doing activities where you can go to each other's houses and potlucks, right? Like, and a lot of times too, where you go to those type of events that are your friends, you're socializing, you're also being able to kind of share some food and then maybe take some stuff back or switch it around. So that's one way is that's a pre-COVID activity, I would say, is, having those type of events was really fun to do around the neighborhood or some of our kind of communities of friends in the military. Some other options are, I'm not necessarily the best at this, so I'm gonna give some advice that I'm also trying to get better at, which is being mindful of sales, of things, the way that at the grocery store, even though I still get them, I'll look through to see, oh yeah, I really like that. That's on sale. Or like sometimes Costco will send these things where you're like, oh, actually, I really love these. Maybe I'll go buy a bunch of this that's on sale, right? So those are ways you can stretch. My mom's probably she's not gonna watch this, so she won't be embarrassed, because we had 5 kids growing up, and
I'm gonna share it with her.
Yeah, right. And I always felt like my mom.
You love Mama Stone.
Yeah, she's lovely and adorable, and like you will love her more than that's why I don't want her on here. She'll be like, take all the. No, I'm just kidding. I love her, but she was able to always help us stretch. It always made me feel like we were eating really delicious things. I didn't really know that we didn't have a lot of money, and she was always really good at that. So it was a lot of like pot roast, and you can use the kind of cut of meat that doesn't necessarily, like, if it cooks for a really long time, it still tastes delicious, right? It's like, so finding ways to do some of those kind of those type of meals that can last and stretch. Those were we had those a lot, and I didn't realize, I thought they were delicious as a kid. I didn't realize it was like my mom's creative way to make a meal last for like 4 meals, right? So those are some ways food wise. I also feel like in the age of screens, depending on where you live, being outside and being active, it's an opportunity to put screens away. It's free to go to a park. It's free to go to here. It's free to go to the beach, right? It's just finding excuses to see what's going on in your local communities that are free activities. And this is kind of the pre-COVID / sort of in COVID, right? Depending on what the activity is, and you can wear face masks and not necessarily be around a lot of other people, but finding those opportunities to spend time together, getting your kids off screens, even though they may not want to do that, and those are both kind of cheap or free or a way to kind of stretch the dollar. And last I would say is, social media can be great, right? And there's some terrible things about it, but let's always kind of focus on why the benefits are. And that is joining Facebook groups that are like community, like things going on in your community, events or activity community groups. That's what I've done here in San Diego. And I found out about things that like, oh, that's cool that they're doing this art show, or they're doing some type of like community garden giveaway, or like you can go and get a box of really fresh, delicious fruits and vegetables for like a third of the cost that you would if you were at the grocery store, right? So those type of things you can be involved in and see what's going on in your community, and that's usually a cheap, easy way to stretch those dollars.
Yeah. I just want to throw out there, talking about cheap, fun things to do together, is that one of my favorite things with my husband is doing date night in, where we put the kids to bed, we order our fancy pizza, and we Amazon a movie and maybe have a little popcorn. And so it's being able to relax in our home in our pajamas and still see a movie, and we don't feel like we're missing out on anything with that.
Cool.
You know what I feel like?
Oh,
Sorry, I was just gonna say I feel like she used Amazon as an example instead of Netflix, so that she didn't have to say Netflix and chill.
You can Amazon and chill.
Prime days if we're about finding the good deals.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I the thing that when it comes
Amazon.
to like a money or budget, if you have a lot of kids, or depending on how many members of your family there are, renting a movie, like an on-demand movie via Amazon, especially right now with the theaters they're releasing things to people early via streaming methods rather than going to the theater, you end up spending what, $20, and then maybe some food you bring in, versus how many tickets to go to the theater, how many things of candy do you end up buying, or popcorn. I mean, Court and I go to the movie. We spent it's like, how did we spend that much money for the two of us to see a movie?
Because M&Ms are $8 That's why.
I know.
It's $9 to get in. It's $8 for your M&Ms. It's $5 for your large Coke. It's another $7 for your bottomless popcorn.
Yeah, I was I had recently went and seen a friend, just kind of surprised them for their birthday, and they brought out, because they were like, well, we want to watch a movie. There's like 4 or 5 of us, but we don't want people to be inside. So they set up, they have a big backyard, and they found like a $50 projector. I didn't know they were this cheap. I mean, because it was like a cheap projector. It's not like necessarily gonna be like high quality, really great image. But if you're outside and you have a $50 projector and just like a sheet, and you've now created this cool environment to watch a movie outside. It costs you $50 for a projector. Like, the fact that that's that cheap, I would be outside all summer. Probably, well, I could do it all winter here in San Diego too. To those type of activities. Again, I don't have kids, but I don't need kids to go and.
Now you can charge $5 admission to your backyard to watch a movie, and now you've got your money making side business.
Yeah, right.
We've got you, folks.
I am amazed that the technology continues to make things even more affordable, or doable, which is I think that we are all very lucky about some of the technology stuff that can help when it comes to trying to budget and entertain on a dime.
Yeah,
sure,
definitely.
So we talked a little bit about stretching out those dollars without having to like go the ramen noodle route.
Ramen noodles are good though.
They're fantastic.
Add an egg. My older brother, he cracks an egg for his kids, and right at the end, I was like, why didn't I not ever know this? It's like delicious. But anyway.
Yeah, you can make like your own, like that's a cheaper way to go too for like real ramen. But I mean, like when you're forced to eat it every day and all you got is that flavor packet to look forward to, it kind of gets old after a minute. So like, okay, so families receive, we get entitlements when we PCS. We get our dislocation allowance, or DLA. We get per diem. We get our, temporary lodging allowance, or TLA, because we love our acronyms all up in the military, right? And, sometimes after reimbursing those expenses that we incur, we've got money left over. What is the smart thing to do with that leftover money? Do we save? Do we invest? Do we buy a new TV? Like, what do we do?
You call me. That's what you do. That's
oh, word. See? Oh, no. That's a good. There you go.
It does go back to like paying yourself, and as part of when you sat down with your spouse and had communication about upcoming moves, how your budget looks, and creating that budget. Also, part of that conversation should be goals. Like, what does retirement look like? How much? Where do you want to live? What are some of the things you want to do? If you have kids, are you trying to save for their education at all? Are you so at that moment when you have sort of a surplus, while that new TV does look amazing, and maybe it's time to get a new TV, it's like you got to treat yourself every once in a while. Like, what you guys watch Parks and Rec, right? Treat yourself. But within reason, and not like buying a new TV every day. But those are the moments. It's like, awesome, we have this extra money. What's our time? Like, do we have a long time horizon to like? Do we need this in the next 12 months? Do we need it in 3 years? Do we not really need this at all? Could we invest it for the long term? And that's where that strategy of working with a financial advisor or planner can help figure out where you'd want to put that from a savings perspective, because you definitely don't want to have it, if you are going to do something like investment, you don't want to go and invest with the idea that you might need it in 12 months, right? Because investing can be volatile, especially as it's just the nature of the beast. And so it's always talking about timeline and in your goals. So that's what I would say is, before you go out and spend that money on something, sit down with your spouse. You can usually call, and there's also planning tools available on Base. You can give me a call if you need a suggestion. I'm happy to give you some ideas. But I'm always going to be a proponent of, if you can save a little bit more, that money could be a lot more for you down the road. So just kind of make sure that you and your spouse have a plan and know where those kind of surpluses could go if they show up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that talk was directed at me, because I'm always just like, we've got some extra money. Like, let me go take a trip. I could get some new shoes. And it's always just like,
oh God, the shoes. This woman has way too many shoes for God on
So
this.
do I. I recently, during, and you know what, COVID it's been a terrible thing for a lot of people, including we've all been affected, and people have been dying, which sucks. I've also tried to find a little bit of like my own personal or positivity out of this. Like how have I overcome it? What have I been able to do? And so, like, one of the more, like, I don't say it's superficial things was going through, like, Marie Kondoing all my stuff, right? And realizing in those moments, it was like, oh my God, I have a lot of this. I need to be more mindful in the future of, like, do I really need more of those? Like, it helped me recognize some of the things where I overspend, or where I, or I say, like, I'm the one that's the only one spending the money in my house. But like, just like together, it's like, wow, we've spent like, as we've been kind of organizing our stuff and going through, be like, wow, we have a lot of this. Let's make sure we are aware of that for future. So you can have all the shoes you want.
Yeah.
But
it's also like, do I need more shoes? Probably, but maybe I can so then I can have 3 pairs of shoes down the road rather than 1 right now.
I like having options. So I struggle with shoes. They're my weakness. Whenever I travel, I usually have like a duffel bag of shoes, because what if I want my nude shoes? What if I want the black ones? What if I want the red ones? What if I need a flat or a kitten heel versus a high pump? What if I want to find time to work out in this short little trip that's jam-packed already, and I need my running shoes because I might go running, and then I need sandals because there could be a beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, so one thing that I feel like some people tend to think when it comes to like budgeting, meaning budgeting is like, there's no room or capacity to like enjoy, right? Like when you think of budgeting, it's just like, we have to figure out our bills for the monthly, and can we make it, right? But part of budgeting can be like, hey, I really enjoy shoes. I want to make sure that I can buy, maybe a couple pairs a year, or 10. I don't know how many you buy a year. So it's like, and putting that into your budget, right? It's not that you can't have the things you like, or you can't enjoy, going out and buying or in participating in activities. It all comes down to just budgeting for it. So if those are things that you enjoy, or there's things that you want to do as a family, just budget for it, right? And rather than saying, well, let's just go do this and put it on a credit card, I think sometimes too, it can be a more you get a little bit more out of it, because you're like, I just saved for the last 6 months or the last year, and now we're going to Disneyland, right? Or something like that, where it's like, there was a little bit of sacrifice somewhere else, because, hey, maybe we really wanted to do this, prepare for this trip, or we wanted to buy some shoes. So because of that, I know that we're going to have less money in another, line item of our budget, or like maybe we need to not have Netflix for a while, right? Or just something that can give and take. So that's part of like the communication part of being key, where it's, hey, what are the things you enjoy? What are the things we need to include for you, for me, for our family, that will keep us, happy and sane through some of the craziness of being a military family, right? And those are okay to budget for. It's just, the more time you give yourself to budget for those, the more likely you have to be, you know, successful in achieving those goals of saving.
No, totally. So that leads us into our next question about budgeting. So for families like mine that now have teenage children, which I can't believe I have a teenager.
I can't either. You're not old enough to have a teenager.
I have a 13-year-old. I had him young. Anyway, but, you know, I want to start teaching you more about money sense, being, you know, financially responsible. And, you know, I always think a PCS is a great time to really show, you know, about budgeting, saving, expenses. And it's a lot better to see it kind of real world rather than come sit with me, child, look at our bills, watch how I pay them kind of deal. So what, for families like mine with those kids that want to start teaching things, you know, money finances during a PCS, what advice can you give for families in that area of life that want to teach that stuff? And are there any special tools, tips, or programs they can use that are geared towards children to kind of usher them into being that financially responsible young adult that they will soon be?
Yeah, you know, there's a couple of thoughts I have like running through my head, so I'm going to try to let my ADD like not go.
Just let it out.
Here.
The
first time I'm remembering a story of myself growing up and in those times of like not knowing that we didn't have any money, but then also the glimpses of my parents kind of stressing out about, you know, the bills, and then kind of feeling like I had some shared responsibility, even though I wasn't working. Like I started to feel guilty, and like it's just like I don't know if my other siblings felt that same way or they were aware, but it was just like that was something that happened to me, and it's still kind of affected me. Like I probably should go to therapy about that, but whatever. So
that's why we're here. Let it out, brother.
Yeah, right. So like the what I'm getting at is having your kids involved in your family budget or idea. If you're gonna do it, it's fine. Just make sure that there's like a lot of open dialogue. But at the same time, it's like just being careful or mindful of the conversations you and your spouse are having, and where you're having those, and are your kids around, and because it can affect them in a negative way if it's more about like how we're stressed about this or that, and it's not necessarily your kids' responsibility to deal with that. You know, if the bigger family conversation can be like, hey, we're having, you know, we're getting ready to move, or, you know, so mom or dad's gonna not have their job anymore for a little while, which means we're gonna probably have to do this. So again, communication, right? Just like keeping them in the appropriate loop of expectation, and that helps. So that's like the first part of that. The second part is, I think, as much as we don't want to say it, incentivizing your kids is
gold.
Is good, right? So like,
yes,
I love this whole thing. I have a unicorn savings, which is awesome, right? So it's like, even depending on how old your kids are, it could be like, hey, if you're doing odd jobs, maybe if you're doing, I don't know if they are getting allowance or whatever the case may be, but being like, hey, for every dollar that you save, I will give you 50 cents, or I will match match whatever you are being able to put away, because then they start to learn and see just the idea of like being rewarded for saving. It creates sort of like a positive experience with them learning to save or put away, and then they can see like, hey, look, here's your money, and here's the one I'm going to match. And because a lot of times what that is beginning to show psychologically is, you know, even now with like the blended retirement system with TSP, there's a match, right? You're going to get a match for you putting money in. So it's teaching good habits about, you know, things that we do in society with our employers, where when we save, they will match, and that's a bit. So that's one idea that I really encourage to do. The second is, again, technology is really great. There are actually, I don't know the name off the top of my head, but there's actually like companies, and a lot of banks and credit unions will do this too, which is like a teenager checking account where.
Oh man,
where there's no overdraft. They can't do the debit card, right? I'm back again. Sorry. You get like a debit card, and you have full access to that account.
We did
and you
that.
Can sit down.
Mhm.
Did you do that, MJ?
Yep,
Yeah.
for both our
what was your
kids.
experience with that? Was it
So it's
was
really
that good?
It was really good because not because I could look in and be like, how many video games credits did they buy today, but more so to be like, okay, so this is how much you have now, this is how much you're gonna get, but not till that date, and you have a charge coming out that might go over. Was that a smart thing to do? And then getting them to watch so that they're not always counting their chickens, you know what I mean? And you can keep it on. Like my daughter, we can still see her account. It's strictly her account. We can't really, you know what I mean? But you know, she's still learning to adult herself. She's 21. I mean, she's getting a heck of a lot more help than I did, but that particular program really kind of helps set them up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that those tools, is that through, is it a third party, or is it like your bank or credit union just has an account that was for
no, it was our bank. Like it was our
Yeah.
bank. It just kind of added, piggybacked onto ours. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would say if that's something you're interested in, you can always go check out, you see if your bank or credit union does some sort of like team checking with a debit card. And that is a really great way to keep. It's also, I feel like as a parent, just watching some of my friends do it, it helps them because they're actually trying to teach their kids, and maybe they're going like, oh crap, if I'm going to give them this advice, I better do it for myself too, right? Like it's like you can't be necessarily like this hypocrite, even though sometimes you probably still can because you're the adult. But whatever. It's the idea that you're practicing what you preach, and just together, it's an opportunity to improve your financial literacy together.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And you know what? I have a quick bonus question that kind of piggybacks off of that specifically. Okay. And it's totally gonna, first of all, blow Megan's out of the water. I'm gonna totally trump her on this one. So you got your teenagers and now you're growing up. And speaking of which, did you happen to know, Nick, that I have a new member in my family? Did you know that I have a new member of my family?
Oh my God.
Did you know this happened? Did you know that I did not birth this, but my daughter did?
She got promoted.
You're a grandma?
No, I am not.
She is
Write it down. Okay, sorry, audience. No.
Oh my God, MJ, you're a grandma. Congratulations.
I am a Mimi because I just turned 40 and I'm still struggling with that one.
My grandma. It's funny. My grandma Mary, her nickname was Mimi. She was Grandma Mimi.
Love it.
She was great.
Love it.
Grandma Mimi.
So here's the sitch. So my daughter, she has this brand new kiddo here, and her airman is actually here right now. He actually got to be here for the birth, thank gosh. He's stationed on the other side of the country. And so let's say, a couple months from now, and COVID just takes a break for a second, and they're able to, do their thing over at the new duty station, and be together with baby and a family. Who they're young. They're both 21 years old. Now let's take it back to when we were 21 years old. Okay. Right. So okay. So, right. Okay. So sometimes you start off with a very finite amount of money that seems like it could go really far, but it never does. So if that's the mindset, right, that we're working with, how are they able to save when they're, kind of like just starting out and needing to, like, everything has a place. Every dollar has a place to go, right? So what can they do to save, like, when you have no money?
Yeah, it's a really good question, right? The answer is kind of a tough one because it comes down to the idea that no matter what, typically there is a way to save, even if it's $5, even if it's $25, right? That just might mean that you can't have that bottle of wine, or I don't know, like your kids, I don't know, like, or like going to the, finding that the gas station over, if you go to the military gas station, maybe you save $5 every time you fill up based off of the other one, and that's going to be $20 because if you have to fill up every week or whatever. So there are ways to continue to save, and it can get tough, especially when your energy is not there. You're a newborn parent, right? And so we're not going to be perfect at this. And that's the other thing too, is like,
Oh, I feel like he had something.
I really wanted us to be able to say,
Nick, you're in and out.
you know what? That's just fine. You made it through the month. Good job. We'll try again next month, right? And so that is something that I feel can be the biggest pitfall, is when we're trying to save and maybe it's not going the way that we planned in the beginning. We just want to give up. And to be successful, you have to just kind of continue to try to be positive about it, and even when it sucks and you're like, how are we going to do this? Or what, this seems impossible. It's not. It's temporary. And especially when you're that young, your income is generally only going to increase. Bills increase too, but hopefully it's that your income increases a little bit higher than what your bills are, and you'll get better about it. But because you had the mindset, because you were determined or more disciplined about the kind of the muscle memory activity of it, then once you do have that extra money to save, it's going to be easy, and it's going to be like, awesome, we are saving now. And those are the moments where, it's like, if you need encouragement, just tell yourself that you have this brand new baby, you're new parents, and you're keeping that baby alive and fed and healthy. Congratulations, right? So just like stay realistic about this, because we're not perfect in any way, and neither can really our how we save or budget be. And that some months, some years even, are going to be tough, and but we do our best. And that's when you can call your friends or call an advisor just to, hey, this is what we're running into. Do you have any suggestions or opportunities? And the thing, giving advice about like what can they do can be hard, just because every situation is going to be different, right? So that's why I say on the like the overall encompassing thing is that just don't give up in the hard months. And don't think that you're failing, even if you didn't save anything or what you wanted to. Keep going, keep trying, because it always can get better, if you can stay positive about it, even in the dark months.
Yeah. So Nick, really quick, where can people find you at? If people watching and they want to reach out to you, like how do I find Nick Stone?
You have to drive to San Diego.
Oh my God, it's a road trip!
Yes. I've got $2 for gas.
Right. There are many ways to find me, unfortunately, and some bad news articles too. But so don't Google my name that way. But if you do, you can call me or email me. The easiest way is my email's my name, Nick Stone with a period in the middle, nick.stone @edwardjones.com. And Facebook, send me a Facebook message, send me any kind of message. I typically check them sometimes, no, all the time. And I'm happy to help where I can. Again, the thing that I've really enjoyed about what I do is everybody is in a different stage of life when it comes to money and finances. And I just, being able to experience and see and witness kind of what military families are going through, I don't necessarily think that a lot of them are getting great advice or even encouragement. Is really what, at the end of the day, like, we may not end up working together as because it may be not necessarily a great fit, or like it's not cost effective, right? But I'm still here. My door's always open, especially to military families, where if I can help you out, if I can get you in the right place, if I can coordinate something with you, then my job is done. But until you need me again. So anybody out there watching or listening, just know that there's no judgment. It's a judgment-free zone, safe space, and it's confidential. So I'm not going to go gossip to MJ about other people. With
Not
their money.
anyway.
I mean,
yeah, right. No, yeah, it's because besides, there's a couple of things in our life that are pretty intimate, and money and finances are one of those, right? It's very personal, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about ever. And it's also because if you don't take it serious and you are too nervous to talk about it, that's usually when you fail about it. You make those uninformed decisions, or those there's unintended consequences from not seeking out help when maybe you needed it.
Yeah.
That was a really long answer for how to get a hold of me. Nick.stone@everjones.com or Facebook.
Totally, audience. We just dropped it in the comments section. Hit him up. He is a peach. Nick, I want to thank you so much for coming on and just being real and raw. You know what I mean? Not just with your financial backing and financial experience, but also with your military life experience, and actually mentioning that one team, one fight aspect of things. That we have to look at this. We have to have those conversations, and they're not always going to be comfortable, but they'll definitely be worth it to be on the same page. I can speak from experience that I wish I could go back, because hindsight is 20/20, and have taken that advice from you now. But hey, now you can learn from my mistakes and Nick's guidance. Yay!
Yeah, right. And it's like, so where you're at now, MJ, is don't beat yourself up on the past. You've learned from it. You guys are now making better decisions, hopefully. I don't know.
Yes. Gosh, yes.
Sometimes, but it's everybody's journey is unique, and everybody is going to have a different situation. But the nice thing is that as a military community, a lot of ours might at least share some commonalities. So if you do have friends that are in the spouse community, military spouse community, or reach out to them, because I bet you, I can't bet, it's not allowed in my business.
Wager? You'd wager?
You'd wager? I would.
If you're a gambling man.
Yeah, right. If I was a gambling man, I would bet you that a lot of people are also feeling exactly the same way you are. And at least you can maybe find, some, find like an encouragement buddy out there, or somebody that you can reach out to when they need some help, and vice versa, right? Like, we're all in this together. We have our families, but then we also have our really wonderful network of military families and spouses, and that's who I've relied on. And it's almost like a pay it forward thing, where I've gotten some really great support and help, not just financially related, as a military spouse, from other military spouses. And I feel like it's also my duty to continue and pay that forward to others. So, and I think that a lot of us have that mentality, and that's why I love being a military spouse. Is we've all, even though sometimes we all fight a little bit, we're all siblings, and we've got each other's back at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like I can talk crap about my little brother, but watch somebody else do that.
Correct. Yeah.
What? Go? Did you say go Army?
Of course I did.
Of course you did. Why? So random. Freaking Marine Corps, hoorah! You kill separate fight.
Look at all of us. Even we can all get along, and we're in different military branches. Yay!
It totally happened.
The Navy's the Uber for the Marine Corps.
I've never heard that one. That's good.
I say it with love because my brother's a Marine and everything, and he always jokes about like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go take my Uber ship across the ocean today." And it's just like, "Oh, okay."
That's so awesome. I'm gonna use that one too.
Steal it. We'll make it a hashtag. It's gonna be a thing, people. All right. Well, that is all we have for you today. Thank you again, Nick, so very much for hanging out and dealing with our shenanigans.
Love it.
You really kept up. I really appreciate that. You can totally hang with us. I love it. And of course, as always, our PCS Reform Advocate, aka Megan Harless, at the helm with me. And
Megan,
we will thank you. And we will see you next week. And until then, Megan.
This too shall PCS.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.